Jordan Katz, ladies and gentlemen.
Andy,
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Big fan.
Yeah, so we are doing video for the first time. You're kind of showing me that. So maybe before we get into some of your musical background, you're also a podcast producer.
Yes.
So tell me about that. Like, how'd you get into that?
Well, I really wanted to do music for podcasts. And I have connections in the comedy scene and the podcasting scene, and I just put it out there that I wanted to do music for podcasts. I had done some, and I thought, oh, this is how I'm going to get through the pandemic, music for podcasts.
You mean like recording music for
like scoring podcasts.
Intros and
yes.
outros, yeah.
And bumper music and making a library and like music and music supervision for podcasts, licensing or finding music to go in podcasts, going through libraries. And I got a gig doing a theme song for a very popular podcast, redoing their theme song. And I spent a lot of time on it and went back and forth with the host and the producers quite a bit, to the point where I really frustrated myself. And you have a dog, and the dog is in the podcast now.
Yeah. Roxy, hi. You want to say hello?
Roxy.
Okay, let's go. Come on, you're doing so good. You're doing so good.
Roxy, bump this. Okay. So.
All right, you were telling me you were going back and forth with these producers.
Right. And the host of the show. And it was kind of like it was a pain in the ass. And the money that they had to spend on it was so little, it wasn't really worth it. And I got really bummed.
Yeah.
Because I was like, how do people make a living making music for podcasts? I guess it's not a real job. And my friend, who was a podcast producer, said, they pay really well for everything else, editing, producing, you can, and you know how to do it. And I was like, yeah, I guess I do. And, if you've ever edited a whole band's recording, you could do two people talking.
Oh, yeah.
Head to head, no problem. And then I just started putting out there that I did it, and some of my friends hired me, and through them I got more serious, and now I'm producing like 14 podcasts.
Wow.
And it still fits into my life really well.
That's great. Yeah, I kind of started podcasting on my own and with the gear that I had. Like you said, like if you've ever edited or recorded yourself playing music, or a band where you have sometimes dozens of tracks, then having two vocals is very simple.
Yes.
It's very easy.
It's like you can do that, no problem.
Yeah. So
all the musicians listening to this podcast, it's a good pivot. It's a good way to diversify.
Yeah.
Is just, you're still working with audio, and it's you already know how to do it.
Yeah, and I got to say, I mean, maybe we're getting off topic a little bit here, but I got to say that my biggest kind of realization, because again, the know-how, the technical aspect of it, which I think for a lot of people, that's the barrier to entry. For me, I had the gear. I was able to record. I knew how to edit. That part was easy. The harder part is creating the content and coming up with, recurring, like having more than just 1 hour worth of things to say.
Oh yeah, I am not an artist like you are. I'm not a content creator. I just facilitate for people.
Yeah.
That for me is completely, that baffles me.
Right.
I mean,
because it is a challenge. You'd be surprised. After you've put out a few episodes, if it's just me by myself, I've only got so many topics to cover.
Yes.
Before I start recycling topics. Right. With a guest, that's much different, because now you have a new person, you've got a whole new story to talk about, and that kind of thing. But Which kind of brings us to this podcast, which the format is now. It was all interview based and with musicians and music professionals. And then I kind of switched it to Have a Great Gig, which is really talking more about life as a musician and all the aspects of that on a gig, but also before the gig, after the gig, kind of getting into more like, not that I want to stay away from talking about music because you're also a music director. I'd love to hear about, the meat of a musical performance, what's at the core of the performance, which is the music itself. But it's sort of fascinating, all the stuff around that. Okay, so we not talked yet about you as a banjo and trumpet player?
No.
Okay, so I met you as a banjo player, as somebody who was getting into banjo and bluegrass, the genre, and then I learned that you're really an accomplished trumpet player. So, how long have you been gigging on the trumpet?
I think I started playing gigs, like my first real gig at a bar was when I was 18, and I'm 45 now. So you do the math.
Yeah.
That's, 30 years. Let's say 30 years.
I mean, what's your experience as a music director? And who are you music directing for?
Well, right now, I'm the musical director for Varietopia with Paul F. Tompkins. And he's a comedian, and it's a variety show that is a monthly variety show, either in L.A. or every other month somewhere in the country. We just did San Francisco. Next month we're doing Chicago. We'll be in Philadelphia in June. So that's it's a pretty frequent show.
So Paul F. Tompkins, and when you say variety show,
well, we have a 10 to 13 piece band that's on the stage the whole time. We back up the musical guests in the variety show. Paul does some stand-up, and he usually has a stand-up guest and a character guest, like he does a sketch. It's called a sketch guest. He does a sketch with somebody. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, there's a big finale song. So the band ends up playing, between 4 and 6 songs every show.
Cool. And so as a music director, you're finding players,
hiring the band.
Yeah.
Yes, finding the right people for the gig.
Yeah.
Which is a challenge. And then discussing with Paul what music he wants to play, what songs, and then every month liaising with the musical guest, because part of the show, we want to have musical guests. I wanted to the band to back up the musical guest on every show, instead of them bringing in a band,
right,
or bringing in their own musicians, whoever, whether it's, we've had Amy Mann, Open Mike Eagle, it's Caitlin Tarver. We had Puddle's Pity Party last weekend, the 7-foot clown that doesn't talk and only sings. I want to back them up. I want them that to be part of the experience of the show. Yeah. Fitting them into what the band is. And it's not that hard, because the band is very diverse. We have a bunch of horn players. The bass player is actually a sousaphone player. We have a lot of different configurations and styles we can cover, because it's such a big band.
Any kind of advice or could you walk through your strategy or your policy, your protocol for, I guess for a show like that, the music is maybe a little more specialized and a little more focused. Mm-hmm. Are you playing well-known songs?
Oh yeah. We're, usually the final song of the show is some sort of mashup of, popular music, new classics. You know, on the last show we did Common People by Pulp. We've done September mashed up with, I forget. Oh, we mashed it up with Dynamite. And, you know, the BTS song.
Oh,
You know, like we do.
I thought you were going Staying Alive.
No,
there
not
for a
Staying
minute.
Alive. We haven't done any Bee Gees. You know, so there is a lot of popular music in the show.
Okay, so are you writing lead sheets, or is it just
I write every note for everyone to play,
scores?
except for the drummer.
Right.
Yeah, I write the horn charts. I write the bass lines for the sousaphone player to play. I write all the guitar parts. I guess I don't really write the piano scores, but I'll tell the piano players like what.
Yeah. So that's pretty.
Like, you know.
That's
yeah.
about as detailed as you can get as an arranger.
I think you can get a little more detailed. Like you can tell.
Yeah.
You can give the drummer a chart.
with no.
Our drummer doesn't really read charts.
Yeah.
So you know, she makes her own, and you know, you could get into like exactly what you want the piano players to play.
Yeah.
But so I do like lead sheets and also like, you know, exact
Parts, yeah.
So it's almost
I love that.
as
man.
detailed as it could be.
I mean, that's what I
You know.
studied in school. Was
Yeah.
was arranging.
Yeah.
And
You're probably a better arranger than me then.
well, I haven't done it in I haven't done it in 15 years because, you know, I've been in bluegrass and country world, which is like number charts, which
Yes.
is about as far from a score and an arrangement as you can get. And even at that, it's like a lot of times we're just kind of learning it on the fly and going for it.
And you know what? I don't think that you can do that with any other type of music.
That's true.
I love bluegrass for that.
Yeah.
I love that it's sort of just about the people that you're playing with and how you interact with each other together. You know, jazz is all about interactions, but mostly it's about one person at a time. You know, and the barrier of entry in bluegrass is so much lower. You know, you are just dealing with 4 or 5 chords.
Sure.
And
I mean,
it is such a well, I think you went the right way. You know.
Well, sometimes it's frustrating because I have an idea for a song that the only way to get there truly and perform something is to really write out detailed parts for it. And you know, for the kind of gigs that I'm doing, it's just not, we don't rehearse. We don't have,
I think like 90% of bluegrass gigs out there are like that.
even the big one, even the big stages.
Yeah, well, even some of them.
Yeah, sure.
Like unless you're trying to innovate and create this like tight little show, I think a lot of the bluegrass gigs are just like that. Or like we hear the songs,
Yeah.
you know, and we do, you know, we perform them with each other, for each other, and for everybody else.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and if you have players who know what they're doing and have you know, good improvisational skills and a good ear, you can pull it off, and it works really well.
Yeah.
That's always the challenge. You know, so I like to pick songs that I feel like everybody knows, but then if you do that too much, you're kind of playing the same. You know, the danger with bluegrass is, like you said, the barrier is so low that you don't want to just be playing, you know,
you don't want every gig to be a jam.
Bluegrass 101.
Right, yes.
You'd like to get into some songs with some interesting changes and stuff that you really need to know what's coming up. But
right. Well, I mean, that's why I thought it was so special to meet you guys who... It's not, you know, you do the bluegrass jams or whatever, but you're also performing it, and everyone is doing the homework on their own.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's learning those tunes. Everyone is like, oh, here's some new tunes for this week or this time, or like, what tune was that? When you like, you know, it's all sort of growing together, which goes back to bluegrass being part of the community, which is why, I mean, I played banjo for 20 years.
Oh, really?
I've been a joker, a faker on the banjo.
I didn't know that. I thought you like just picked it up.
No, I hadn't just picked it up. I had just picked up bluegrass because I couldn't get community.
Yeah.
That wasn't the circles I went in. Or the bluegrass people that I did hang out with were just like, they would laugh at me.
Yeah.
I'm bringing a little banjo, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like really ripping.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So I never found community. I couldn't get my friends to have a bluegrass jam more than like twice. It just didn't happen. So I mean, and I would practice a little bluegrass, but mostly I played with singer-songwriters. I didn't, once in a while I'd be able to like play. I learned it's a Bela Fleck song, and that's what I would play at sound check. So everyone would be like, "Wow, you're amazing!"
Yeah.
I'm playing Big Country. I practiced it for like every day for like 2 months, and that was the one song I could play. I always loved the banjo, but I never found bluegrass community.
No, that's a good point. It's something I sort of have taken for granted just because, well, I went to school and I found a community there because it was a music college and tons of bluegrassers, and that's when I got into it. And since then, have found, sometimes by accident, found the jams happening around LA, which there are a handful. There have been throughout the years. So I've always sort of known the pickers in town, and and then I had a band going for a long time, and that has sort of evolved into what it is today. But yeah, it's been a long time since I was playing guitar by myself in my room going, I wish I had someone to jam with.
Right.
That was a long time ago for me. So I guess there's probably a lot of people out there in that situation. So yeah, what would be your advice for somebody who just found your bluegrass community for whatever it is somebody might be into?
Come at it with energy.
Yeah.
Be there, realize how valuable it is, because, you could play in your room every day for 20 years and, never learn really what music is.
Yeah. I've used this analogy before, but it's like shooting hoops in your driveway, and just your jump shot is like perfect. You can nail it from anywhere. But then, and you do that for years, and then somebody says, let's play a game of 2-on-2. And you're like, this is brand new.
Yes.
Doesn't matter how good your jump shot is.
Yes. Yes.
You're playing with other people is a whole new dynamic, and listening to the other members of the band. And what I like about bluegrass, and I guess you could probably make this argument for any style of music, but the elements that create the bluegrass groove, it's very similar with, like, say, reggae music. Every instrument is doing something very specific to create what it is that we associate with reggae music.
Yes.
And bluegrass is that same way. It's, you have the bass on downbeats and the mandolin chopping on upbeats. The banjo is rolling 16th notes. Right. The guitar is sort of doing a bass and chop, boom, chuck, And if you know that, if you don't know that, you watch a band and you just go, just sounds amazing. And everybody's doing something. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's clicking. And if you're aware of it, it can be a pretty fun ride to be playing in a band. And when it clicks, it's nothing like it. I mean, and it doesn't always click. That's the thing, is that's why certain jams over the years, I could think of, like, I can remember, like, excellent jams that I've been a part of because of who was in the jam with me. And maybe it was one song in a whole night or a whole weekend of jamming maybe there was a camp out, right? There's a lot of camp out jams. There's a lot of hotel jams. And you might be there for a few days, and you might have 1 hour where it just magically clicks. The right people are in the circle, and then one person walks away and now it's completely different. And one person walks up and now it's completely different. And it's this magical thing. And every now and then there's just like the perfect group, and you might not even know everybody.
Right.
You might not even know their name.
But the chemistry is there.
But it's there, and it's the music that, like, everybody knows what to do. You call a song that everybody knows and likes, everybody knows the parts and the harmonies, and you got all the parts working together, and that's just that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And I think, and speaking of, you said get into it, get all the way into it, and that's great advice, because it takes a lot of it's a lot of work. It's a lot of practice to get good at any style. I have a deep respect for any musicians out there today who are in a narrow genre where it's they're 110% in to one thing, and that's their thing.
Yes, I have a lot of respect for that too, and I have this podcast is about gigging.
Yeah.
About being, and that I think is great. I have a lot of respect for that, and I'm always awed at somebody who is just a jazz trumpet player or just a bluegrass banjo player, or it amazes me, because how the fuck do you survive? There's my gigging philosophy from when I first became a professional musician was diversify. You need to do everything. So much that when I was playing, I want to be a jazz trumpet player. Funk music, sure. I want to play funk music. Oh, you need to get your classical shit together so you can play in orchestras for commercials and movies. And I'm going to play the banjo because that opens up all sorts of other opportunities for me.
Yeah, learn how to produce and record.
Yes,
sequence.
My friend who was a composer when I first moved to LA, he was like, "Get your ass a laptop, learn how to use that shit."
Yeah,
I needed to diversify.
Yeah,
so much. I needed to not close out any possible income stream, because 9 out of 10 gigs are fucking terrible. The gigs suck. 90% of gigs are bullshit. You're standing in trash, or they don't pay enough, or they're not worth the time, or someone treats you like shit. There's so many things that make gigs awful. If you diversify, you can sort of pick the ones that you like and the places that you want to be, because you don't have to take every gig that comes at you as a jazz trumpet player.
Yeah.
Right. Diversify.
So you're diversifying. You're
producing podcasts.
You're music directing.
You find what fits into your life and what you can do, and that is just a little slice of what I've done to keep being a musician. I've been a booking agent. I booked my bands. I'm a booking agent right now for Varietopia, the show. I decided we wanted to get it on the road. I'm using my contacts that I've had for the last 25 years to get us in theaters around the country. I've been a tour manager, bus tours, van tours, car tours.
It's a tough gig.
I learned how to do that. Oh yeah, that sucks too, all to keep up this I'm a professional musician. So that person that is just a trombone player or just a guitar player, I have a lot of respect for that person, because I don't myself, I couldn't make that happen.
Yeah. I feel like it's sort of a modern thing, somebody doing all the jobs. That's something you've only seen in the last 20 years.
I guess.
Because it seems like all of my heroes from 30, 40, 50 years ago were just musicians, and they weren't also producers and actors. And maybe I'm drawing conclusions where there aren't any. But first of all, when I moved to LA, I was doing what you described. I'm like, I'll produce a hip hop track, or I had Craigslist ads out for 100 different jobs I could do. And sort of bluegrass is where I the lane I found myself in, because that's where I found work for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was an engineer and I was producing, and nowadays with my company that does event music and corporate events, like you said, I'm the booking manager, I'm the band manager, I'm the music director.
Yeah.
I'm doing, here's the song list, here are the charts, here's what we got to wear. Load in is at 2 p.m.
Yes, you're the creative director.
Yeah,
You're the tour manager.
and then
you're the booking agent.
and I'm singing lead, and
yes,
I'm
right. You're right. But,
So-
because to just be, first of all, because you can do that. People can do that.
yeah,
A lot of musicians are like, oh, I don't know. I just,
yeah.
Like you can do.
It takes a little effort, but
you can do it,
you know.
and someone's got to do it. Like that's how I got into all the jobs. So I want to play gigs. Someone's got to make those gigs happen.
Yeah.
I'm the one.
Yeah.
Someone's got to tell everyone how to get there. Someone's got to, feed everybody on the gig.
Yeah.
So if you want to have your house and your life and your comforts, you have to diversify now. You can't do it anymore. In the 40s and the 50s, there were like 8 sessions a week for like awesome sessions for trumpet players. You would go like a guy I used to study with told me that he would get up in the morning, they would go and they would do like a TV or movie session, and then they would drive across town and they would fall asleep in their car for an hour, and they'd be at the TV station to be on a live TV band that they were in, and then they would go to a radio station and play on their live radio program, and then at night they would be jazz jam and they would get paid for that stuff all day.
Yeah.
And like that would be every day. We don't really have like if one day a week is like that, it's like that's amazing.
A big day, yeah.
That's I had 2 sessions today.
Yeah. Do you know a guy named Dennis Fetchit?
No.
Okay, so he's a fiddle player, older guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the fiddle gig at Disney for something like 30 years or something. And he was
Disney, which is the first time we're mentioning in this conversation.
Yes.
Wow.
And I was talking to him, he shows up at the bluegrass conventions and the jams and stuff. And this is a guy who retired with a pension from the Musicians Union after 35 years on the Disney gig. That doesn't happen a lot anymore.
No. No.
That's good luck.
No, I mean it's tough. I look at my pension all the time. I do film TV sessions.
Uh-huh.
I was the musical director for a live band on a TV show for 3 seasons. I look at my pension all the time.
Yeah.
It's not much.
Yeah.
It's not much. Like, and I've got the gigs to back it up. I mean, my friend was on television for 30 years. His pension is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, he would correct me. It was only 26 years.
Well, great. Right.
I made that mistake the other day. But, he's got an okay pension. I think by the time it gets to us, it might not be that great. I mean, I keep looking and calculating what it's going to be if I retire at 65, or 66, I think now is when you can do it. It's not that good,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This podcast is called Have a Great Gig. And I'm just saying how much gigs suck. Gigs suck. That's what you should say. The title of this podcast should be Jordan Katz. Gigs suck.
I mean, I think the way to look at it is gigging is work.
Yeah.
And we gotta know that this is work and this is how we're making our income. And I'll take a bad gig over an hourly,
right. It beats working.
Punching a clock somewhere,
it
which
beats
I've done a
working.
lot, and I will take a bad gig over that any day. And the other thing is, a lot of the stuff we talk about on this podcast is 100 ways that you can make each gig 1% better, and things that you can prepare. If you expect every gig to be like, hey, we don't know what we're walking into. The client might be crazy. The guests might be crazy. The venue might have a bunch of rules. I mean, I'm dealing with a lot of that right now. I have venues that have multiple pages of conduct rules and things to sign, and it's stuff that's like just unreasonable. It's
I mean, I have the remedy for it, Andy. I mean, I do. I know what the remedy is.
Tell the people.
I mean, it started when I was 17, 18, playing weddings on Long Island. I thought it was the top of the business. Every gig was an adventure. I loved what I was playing. I loved who I was playing for. I was so excited to be a musician. I loved it. I've done a lot of gigs since then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Playing bluegrass right now made me realize that, gigs, all you have to do is love it. Is truly love it. Is truly, really find a way to really love it. And then there's nothing can penetrate that. The other night, it was after midnight. I was at Disneyland. It was freezing cold. And it was just, my back was seizing. And, I was fine. I was playing bluegrass. That's what I want to do. You have to want to be there, and you just have to love it.
Yeah.
That's all. I don't think that that's the remedy. Love it,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. I'm kind of spoiled in the sense that the gigs that I'm booking for myself are more or less styles of music and genres and artists that I like playing. Mm-hmm. Even the country gigs, for the most part, are stuff that I like to play and artists that I like. Occasionally there's, we get into some modern country that's not really my thing. But again, that's when I got to tell myself, this beats, having a boss, needing to be at work,
Sure. Yes. Loving the gig, though, is different than loving playing the instrument and doing, I've been spoiled. I have had some of the cushiest gigs there are. Mm-hmm. I've had the private plane gig or whatever like that. I've had them. I've done them. I know what it's like. So, which helps me realize, I don't love playing the trumpet that much, because I want to do it there. I don't really want to do it as at a jazz gig, at 1 a.m.
Oh yeah.
Or a salsa gig, where you get paid $20 and a soup, and and you had to drive 2.5 hours to get there.
Well, yeah.
I don't love it that much. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that gig experience, the really good ones. But it made me realize, I love playing the banjo.
With any gig, it's either got to be music that you love, people that are great that you get along with, and then there's the money. And if 2 of those out of 3 are there, you take the gig. If it's great money, but the music isn't great, but you like the people, you take that gig.
Yeah.
If the people are great and the music is great, but the money's not great, I would say you take that gig. You know what I mean? So
have your listeners heard you talk about that before?
I don't know if I've ever brought
That's good.
that.
You should start every podcast with that.
Well, but originally that was a food analogy. And somebody said, when you're ordering out for takeout, it can either be cheap, good, and fast, but it can't be all 3.
Right. Yes.
It can be cheap and fast, but it won't be good.
That's just about I've heard that about just any job or anything. You can get it cheap and fast, but not good. You can get it good and cheap, but not fast.
Yeah. So, well, I guess, what you're saying is kind of like, we've got to be choosy a little bit. And it's nice to, I'm so spoiled. I didn't even think about the midnight 1 a.m. gig. I just don't do those. I don't take them. I mean, the latest I play nowadays is 11 p.m.
Yeah. Oh no. I can't stand those.
So I never even crossed my mind to mention it, but if that's not working for you, find some new gigs. I mean, my clients are paying a pretty good rate, competitive rate, but it's like it makes it worth it for me to go out and do these gigs.
Mm-hmm.
Under a certain level, I just don't take them. I think. Well, speaking of loving bluegrass,
Yeah.
is there anything you want to play?
You want to play a song?
Sure.
Okay.
What have you been doing on banjo recently?
Me, I've been practicing a lot of stuff. I practice a lot of stuff all day. Whenever I get the chance, I pick up the banjo and play it. But you and I talked before this, and you said you wanted to play Cherokee Shuffle, so I practiced it a little bit.
Okay.
So, right? You want to play it first? Or should I play it first? No, you play it first. I've got chords here.
I'll kick, yeah.
That was acceptable.
Jordan Katz, thank you very much for being on the podcast.
I was so happy that you asked me.
Yeah.
I was like, why the fuck hasn't this guy asked me already? Why didn't he ask me the second time he met me when he found out that I was not?
Yeah. Well, what I would say to that is it's not exactly like I've got this smooth machine of podcasting that's like happening. I podcast at a very sporadic pace.
Still, I feel I should have inspired that in you.
Well, that's that's kind of why I need your help with kind of getting this the video thing happening and we can. What do you say we plan on you coming back at some
let's
point
do it again.
and we can talk again and
I realize from this conversation that I have a lot to say.
Yeah, everybody does, and that's why I want to do the podcast. That's the whole idea. Is like I play with so many musicians, and everybody's got such interesting opinions and takes on what it is to live every day, trying to go after gigs and trying to do your own projects and trying to work for others and everything in between. So, thank you, and come back anytime.
Thank you, Andy.